us who gave. Now, a 5-year-old kid, that Kiddush Hashem is like gold. This guy's going to be on such a level of Olam Haba. When he gets there, he's going to be alone. That's the only problem. He won't know anybody up there. And he's 5 years old. So all I'm saying to you is that you can do something that doesn't seem significant, and it can mean a lot, and it can mean a lot. And I'm trying to do this in a way. I don't want you to stay here till 11 o'clock and then daven Maram. I think it's a big imposition to keep 2,000 people for daven Maram. I don't have that kind of confidence in myself that I could stand to do that. But I want to close by making certain that you understand something. That my words are not intended as criticism. My words are observations. But they're observations from someone who sees a lot that you don't see. Because I don't live here, and I don't work here. And I work all over the country, and sometimes in different countries. And when I go to a judge in LA, and I tell him, Judge, it's Rosh Hashanah, I can't be there. Sometimes I'm dealing with a complete Amaretz who has no idea, and sometimes I have someone who knows exactly what I mean. But when I explain it, inevitably, two things happen. One, I make a good impression if I do it right. And two, I made it easier for the next guy who walks in that door and has to go before that judge and needs off for Rosh Hashanah. Trying to explain Shmini Atzeres, I could never do that. But all I'm saying to you is that we have different roles in life. I am a criminal defense lawyer. I really understand the criminal justice system. Understand a couple of things. One, it can be very mean-spirited. Two, the penalties now, 10 times more severe in many cases than they were when I started. So you don't get, I lived a good life, I never did anything wrong before, so give me a patch and let me go home. Those days are gone. That's how it used to be. Ephraim Sabat, who's a colleague from the US Attorney's Office, when we started, nobody went to jail if it was a nonviolent offense and if it was your first offense. You really did. You got a patch, you did community service, you got probation, you paid a fine. Those days are gone. Now, if you shoot a policeman, God forbid, you could be in less trouble than if you're involved in a $20 million bank fraud. Is it stupid? Does it make sense? No, not really, but that's the way it is. So you should know that. People come to me, they say, worst case scenario, what could happen to me? I look at the document, I say, life. They say, oh, I'm serious. What's the worst case scenario? I said, if I go according to the guy, you're not going to get life, so don't have a heart attack. But I'm just telling you, if you're asking me worst case scenario, you get the wrong judge on the wrong day, with your numbers, you could get life. Well, I'm 55, I never committed a crime, I have a family, it's only money, it's not. I said, I'm telling you, you could get life. Bernie Madoff, if he killed 10 policemen, would not have gotten the sentence he got. So around the world, Bernie Madoff by himself did more to hurt us than any single human being, I think, since Hitler. Because the people who lost money were Jews, for the most part. Yeshivas lost money. But the national world obsession with his case, and I said to someone, I want to do an article. They said, what kind of article? I said, I want to do an article for the op-ed piece of the Times. It's going to be called Devoid of Compassion. So what do you want to write about? So I want to write about the Bernie Madoff case. I've read everything about this case because this is my business, and I've read from scholars around the world, and I've never read one word of compassion in any of the articles. And he looked at me and he says, what are you going to find compassionate to say about Bernie Madoff? You know what I said? His great-grandchildren will suffer because of him. That is compassion. For them to have compassion. They didn't do anything, but they will suffer. That's what you need to think about. That's what you need to understand. Am I going to embarrass my mishpacha? Am I going to embarrass my children? Am I going to endanger my community? Am I going to create chol Hashem? Am I going to do something on regel achad because I can? You can. Most people get away with stuff for a pretty long time. But you know what happened? A pachad befalls an individual who's facing life, and then they feel that they're only out is to give the government other people and to try their best to get other people, whether through legal means or illegal means. I could talk to you for a full day on the laws of entrapment. Very complicated. Entrapment is not giving somebody the opportunity to commit a crime. That's not entrapment. It's entrapment if you cause someone to commit a crime that they are not predisposed to commit in the first place. If I go to it and I say, come with me, I want to hold up a liquor store. He said, I don't want to hold up a liquor store. Are you crazy? He said, come with me, you'll get some money. I don't want to hold up a liquor store. Come with me, I want you to hold up a liquor store. I said, okay, I'll go on and hold up a liquor store. If I happen to be a government agent, yeah, that guy may have an argument of entrapment, because he never held up a liquor store. He's not predisposed to committing a crime. But if you're washing money, if you're washing checks and someone comes up to you who knows that you're doing it and simply in an undercover capacity gives you an opportunity to do more, that's a very hard sell. That's a very hard defense. Some cases it's easier than others. In some cases it's not. In many of the cases that you've been reading about, I think there will be successful defenses that will ultimately prevail in some of those cases. In others, there will not be. And you talk about Masira, the government doesn't care. That's the last topic I want to talk to you about, because it's a topic that very few people understand the breadth of it. I'm not talking about being a Moser to save yourself. That's a different level of Masira, and I'm not authorized to speak on that, Madrega. But if you get a subpoena, because you're involved in an insurance fraud, and the government gives you immunity, and you say, I don't want to testify against another Jew because of Masira, the government says, we don't hold by it. We've litigated it. I've litigated it. The courts have said it's not a valid legal issue. You want to cite Talmudic texts? Don't work here. You got immunity, you got to testify truthfully. So suddenly you've created 50 Masira. In the insurance fraud case, I said to this man, you know what they're going to do? They're going to serve subpoenas on all the women who work in this insurance office, and all the men who got insurance, and all the clerks who helped you, and they're going to give them immunity, and they're going to force them to testify against you. They're going to force them to become Masira. And they're not going to have any choice, because very few people who are not involved in criminal conduct will choose perjury or contempt or jail if all they're being required to do is tell the truth. And under those circumstances, there are a number of Rabbanim, quite frankly, who will give you a header. Who will say, if you didn't do anything, and you were brought into this, and you have no out, and you have a family, and you need parnassa, there are a lot of Rabbanim who will give you a header. I don't know whether it's halachically permissible or not, but I got to tell you, I've been in 200 cases where people who I think were from people ended up on the witness stand. They cried, they were put in chayrim, their kids couldn't get shidduchim, but they didn't want to go to jail. So don't put yourself in a position where one, either you get prosecuted, or two, your only choice is to turn and become a maser. And I'm not talking about putting on a tape recorder and going to somebody who's an Arab person and getting them involved. That's a different level of informant. That's a different level of discussion. That's a discussion that's not appropriate for this forum. Because first of all, it's very complicated. Second, you really have to understand and know all of the facts. I'm talking about if you are in a business that's run by fraud and you have a cash payroll, you are putting every one of your employees in the following predicament. One, they may get indicted. Two, they may go to jail. Three, they may get immunity and have to testify against you. So why is that a good Erlich thing to do? What are you saving in the long run? One retainer for a good criminal lawyer is going to take away all the money you've saved for the last 10 years when they knock on the door. Well, if I have a cash payroll, these people can live in their apartment, because if I give them money on the books, they can't live in that apartment. It's a problem. And you know what? You're right. So the leaders of the Kehillah have to get together and figure out a legal way. Rav Spinker said they have a compliance program so that the tzedakahs that are being run and the gemachs that are being run, they're going to be run legally. You can do it legally. It's harder, it's more expensive, it may be that you have to hire a monitor, it may be that you have to change accountants, but the shmeidrei stuff, and everybody knows what I mean by that. The shmeidrei stuff. I had a witness, I needed him to save a person in a case. All he had to do was testify to an invoice that's coming from his store. That's all he had to do. He's a frum guy. I brought him in and I said, this is a legitimate invoice, right? Yes. Is it from your store? Yes. It's not money laundering, right? You got the materials? Yes. Can you come into court to testify about it? No problem. I said, okay, these are the questions I'm going to ask. You answer them. Do you own the store? Possibly.